Hey, White Sox fans, it's your best White Sox friend, Brett Ballantini, along with probably your second best White Sox friend, Darren Black. We're back on the Farm Podcast. I don't know. It's been, like 6 months, like a month. I don't know. It's been something. It's been basically half as long as it took the White Sox to get back over 500, which of course they no longer are as of this recording. And that's an entirely different podcast. So we will table that and save it for another time. But back from a break, an undisclosed break, it's Darren Black. He has been fined an undisclosed amount of South Side Sox dollars for missing the draft and forcing his partner on this podcast to write 16 real-time draft capsules, which was a delightful experience. Darren, in past drafts, when we've had Joe and Jeremy and White Sox Man and Hamster and probably other people I'm forgetting, Darren Brown, the other half of the Brown and Black combo, last year helped out as well. I used to think, man, this like real-time draft like stuff has the picture. Man, this is sort of easy. It's a little hairy. You sweat a little bit because you want to make sure you got the photos or whatever and edit everything, but it's sort of easy. And of course, this year I found out how challenging it can be. And those of you listening or watching might say, geez, Brett, haven't you had enough of the draft? And the answer is yes, I have had enough of the 2022 draft. But our responsibility to you is to talk about it. Darren's been bugging me like ever since he got back, like, man, come on, we got to do a draft pocket. All right. Okay. So we're doing one. And so I'm going to expect snappy answers, quick comebacks on the draft from Darren Black, because what do I know about draft picks and prep guys and, well, mostly college guys, right? So Darren, let's lead this off. First of all, hey, good to be back with you. It's been, like a month or something. Hey, nice to do this with you again.
Yeah, first half of minor league baseball ruined me, so I took a break.
Yes. Again, I promise not to say anything, but we have just recently revived Darren Black. He was actually just knocked out flat on his back by first half of White Sox affiliate baseball. But boy, they are going gangbusters in the second half. That's another podcast as well, maybe next week. Darren, your assessment, now that you've had time to read all of those. Hey, shout out to Adrian Serrano, who helped me out on first day. It probably would have been much more challenging and much more harried had I not we got to switch off picks on the first day. He did help out a lot, kept to the real time. Continued in the proud tradition of Southside Sox real-time picks, just sort of stepping in the Darren Black shoes there. What can I say, Darren? It just goes to show how, there's just always another guy, another middle infielder, and the minors just chomping at the bit, biting at your ankles to get his chance in the show. But that said, I'm sure you've read all of those capsules, and man, I'm sure they were extremely informative and illuminating. Your assessment of this draft, 19 to 20 players, 95% of this draft, college players, but other things that jump out at you, including, well, I guess we'll get to the first pick, but just overall, what's your thought about the White Sox draft?
Yeah, so to start, I think they had either the second or the second lowest bonus pool. Mm-hmm. So just off the bat, you knew that they weren't going to reach for anybody. And if they were going to draft a high schooler, it was probably just going to be a high schooler. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what they did. But to me, the draft picks and then undrafted picks or free agent signings just as a whole, without, zeroing in right now, 12 pitchers were drafted. And then I think 4 or 5 more were signed. So vast majority pitching. And if you just look at the minor league ranks and see where their struggles are, it's with pitching, because they have a lot of older guys that are never going to be there. Yeah. They have a lot of younger guys that aren't really establishing themselves. So might as well go out, try to throw as many darts at the board as you can. And seems like that's what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, Darren, you may have picked up on this. I'm a little slow. That's a great point. It didn't really strike me that because they had the second smallest, just to the Dodgers, the second smallest pool to sign from, that would limit the amount of risk you could take, the amount of gambles in terms. Rick Hahn, I guess, has proven. He proved in 2020. Was it 2020 with Jared Kelly? Whatever, the Jared Kelly draft. He is willing to to roll the dice. or, do these backroom deals where it's like, hey, first round money for a second round pick, just, stick around. How are you going to come out? And Jared Kelly did. So it's not, it's not a matter of fear or apprehension, but yeah, I guess just the practical limitations of the pool, and yet still trying to get 20 quality guys. That is a factor. And, guess what? Well, see, I was just so busy on those 16 capsules. I couldn't actually put the math together and figure things out, but that's a great point. So let's talk about the one guy that they made the biggest stretch for. I don't know if it's, if you call it controversial, but certainly a bold pick, and a guy who had a ranking, I guess, maybe because of his control or maybe just his youth, a ranking that was much lower than where the White Sox picked him. So certainly they're much higher on Noah Schultz than, say whatever, all the, the prognosticators out there. What'd you think about that first round pick? I think it did come as a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I think the top reason why they looked at him at that spot, a high schooler that wasn't looked at as a first round pick, but as a guy that you knew you could have signed for exactly at slot, which is what they basically did. I think they basically rounded up from what the slot number was, so they could utilize the rest of the bonus pool for that second and third round. Not for high schoolers, but for other guys that are near that range. So they really took 3 kind of second rounders in the first, second, and third, but really kind of just went out there and took the youngest guy, by far the youngest guy in this draft for the Sox, Noah Schultz. Lefty, should be a starter, though the last time that they took a lefty, should be a starter in the first round. He's a reliever now. So we'll see.
And broken, yes, right.
And broken, yes. But I mean, he's basically more of an unknown. He hasn't pitched a ton, even for a high schooler. He hasn't pitched a ton because of illness, not COVID. I think he had mono, which is also a theme with the Sox picks.
No kidding.
A couple other guys had mono too. Guess everyone got back from COVID and was really having a great time. But yeah, I mean, he's really tall. He has a lot of work to do to get his fastball back to consistent mid 90s, which he's a high schooler. You shouldn't expect him to be very consistent. High school pitching is a lot different. We should know that just by Jared Kelly's and Matthew Thompson's and Judalquist at this point, and ignore Colson Montgomery's high school bat, which is just amazing. High school pitching is a whole different monster, so tough to compare him to the others, but just huge unknown. He'll probably be in low A all next year, maybe even the ACL, to be honest, because he's got a lot to learn, a lot to hone in.
Okay, so then the White Sox sort of zag in the second round. I'm not saying they're doing a reverse type of move, but they pick, I believe I have this correct, I'm terrible with pronunciation, but I think it's Peyton Pallette, but that's just what I guessed at in the first place. A guy who's right now hurt, but before getting hurt was really being talked up as a first rounder. Again, this may slip right into the pocket, as you've already sort of introed this draft as the, sneaky, let's be able to sign 20 guys draft. And I guess going first round talent, but hurt, second round, and a guy maybe therefore, likely, they're thinking likely to sign is the strategy there with Pallette. What do you know about this guy? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's funny that Walker Buehler comes up with him, just because there's just such a huge difference between Walker Buehler right now and what this guy is right now. But he went to Arkansas, wasn't really all that successful, but he is a starter. He did pitch in relief a few times, but you should expect him to start. Mid 90s again, decent breaking pitches. Again, control is going to be a problem with all these guys. Even just beyond the normal control of a college pitcher. But he is on the younger side of it. I think MLB Pipeline actually had him rated higher than Noah Schultz, probably just because Peyton's more of a known commodity than Schultz. But the ceiling literally for Schultz would be higher because he's 6'9" compared to Peyton, who's 6'1". But probably just another work in progress, because he has to make sure that he's consistently using his motion. That's kind of a thing that he's run into. He doesn't really have a repeatable motion, so he might have to tweak that once he gets into the player development side of things for the Sox. But he's an interesting guy, and he's a younger college pitcher.
Mhm.
Only 2 years. This is his age 21 season, so 22 next year. So younger on that side, and that's always a plus when you're looking at the draft.
Now, normally, Darren, I just get, as you know, I just get to sit back and do nothing. I'm eating my helmet nachos. I'm just enjoying the draft. I get to watch it as a fan. I'm just, I'm cheering. I got my charts out because I'm a nerd, and I'm like, oh, that guy went there and that. But so this year, because I had to write them all up, I was really focused on just White Sox picks, and it seemed like every guy, every pitcher, a lot of arms being mentioned, a ton of the pitchers. Spin rate came up, elite spin rate, great spin rate, whatever. Now, what I need to know from you is, are they saying that about all picks? Is spin rate just a thing that people are going after now? I know it's not a bad thing, so I don't know the teams are avoiding it, but, or do you think the White Sox really were making a concerted effort to get those guys who had that kind of spin? Because they're just thinking that's the thing to go hard in on to to catch up in the arms race, because they are just devoid of arms at all levels.
No, I mean, even with their undrafted guys, there's the pitching side of it. There's always one pitch that, whether it's a slider or curve, that guy was just really good with. And that's just kind of seems what they're doing with their pitching right now. I obviously, when you think about that, they've been doing that for a while, because Garrett Crochet falls into that as well. But that just kind of seems to be their MO right now. Try to find the strikeout guys. Sure, they might walk a good amount of people, but maybe we'll figure that out later. Cole Seamus is actually kind of a better story in that realm, because he had the same trouble, but like high spin rate. And he's, blossomed this year, but he's also hurt, which is also kind of a thing that happens with high spin rate guys. But I mean, if you look at their major league staff, it's worked out with the guys that they brought in that had that high spin rates. Dylan Cease has worked out great. Kopech's looks good. Just that's kind of the pitching style they're going for right now. Will that work out in the end? I don't know. But at the very least, you could probably see them make a move to the pen if they just have to be a 2-pitch pitcher. So maybe they're trying to cut their losses and say, hey, you can be a bullpen guy like Reynaldo Lopez later, just because you've got that one pitch.
Well, so far, so good. You wouldn't know that Darren Black just quit the draft this year. He said, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm on the outs with the draft. I'm not interested in prospects anymore. You wouldn't know that because he's keeping up really, really well, along with the expert. That's me, Brett Ballantini. We're going to take a quick break, jump back to it. We're probably going to jump around a little bit in the draft, not just go down 1 through 20, but we'll do that in a minute. Hang with us because there's more Darren Black wisdom in just a minute. White Sox fans, we are back. This is the 7th, only the 7th. It's sort of embarrassing. I've fallen down on the job this year in terms of the farm podcast. Darren Black's constantly knocking on the door. He's like, man, come on, I brought pizza. Come on, I got some soda, whatever. Okay, man, let's do this thing. And I'm just like, no, I'm too busy. I'm too important for the farm podcast. My bad. Party foul on me. Apologize to all you listeners and viewers. Apologize to Darren Black. It's not fair. I'm not treating the farm podcast the way I should. And who knows, maybe it can't be worse, Darren. Maybe the second half of minor league play this year for the White Sox will actually
looking a bit better,
get us a little bit more, engaged. I mean, for God's sake, the Kannapolis Cannonballers are in first place in the second half right now. What can you say about that? That is stunning. So maybe we'll do them every few days. Who's to say? Darren, let's jump around a little. Certainly I don't want to miss anybody you want to talk about, but let's cover some guys, and maybe toward the end, if there's somebody I'm just totally whiffing on, you can make sure to bring them up. But give me the wisdom of, no offense to Jordan Sprinkle, but what is the wisdom of picking a 4th rounder who can't hit? I don't know if this is a Yolbert Sanchez thing where it's like, hey, man, let's just get the glove intact because we don't exactly have tight defense going all the way up to the south side. And then we'll figure out the bat later. Or am I being mean to Mr. Sprinkle?
It was kind of so with him, he is a guy that could probably actually stay at shortstop. He seems to be pretty decent defensively. and shows good speed. So he's pretty athletic. So if you're thinking back to like old school White Sox picks, maybe that's just kind of a guy they all would have taken. But yeah, I mean, the COVID years make freshmen, sophomores kind of sound weird, but his 2021 season, he was actually much better hitting wise. He hit 350, but he wasn't walking as much. So I don't know if he just went out of his way to kind of just stay back a bit, and just kind of like let the count come to him, and that was a detriment to his bat on ball skills. I'd be really curious where he would have gone when he was slashing 350 or hitting 350 compared to the 280 he did last year compared to 2021. But I mean, if he is as patient as he is, as he showed in 2022, and he has the ability to hit 350, obviously at the college level, then I think that's a nice, flyer to see what you can do. Because if you already think he's going to at least be a shortstop or at least be a second baseman, at least play up the middle, then might as well see what you can do at the bats.
Yeah.
Kind of a reverse Duke Ellis, I would say, where Duke Ellis was just hitting the ball all the time. And you were just like, okay, well, let's see if he can actually do that in the majors because he can't really walk that much. Now Jordan Sprinkle, it's like, okay, hey, he lost a step with the bat, but walked a lot more. Let's see if he can kind of average that out, literally. And maybe turn some of those walks into down the line doubles or doubles into triples where he was kind of waiting last year.
Okay. All right. I got feisty and you shut it down. Good. That's a good answer.
And he is their top position player.
Yeah.
They drafted.
Yeah.
So
and let's get to that.
A huge gap between them too.
Yeah. And let's get to that. Okay, Darren, one outfielder selected, one catcher selected. Now, one of these things is not like the other. The White Sox do have outfielder candidates. Cuba alone will provide the outfield for probably the next 3 decades in Chicago. However, the White Sox, I mean, maybe they had a bunch of guys on their list and they just got snatched a couple, picks before. I guess that's possible, but they picked one catcher out of 20. And what's going on? Obviously, that's a trend. Obviously, they weren't planning on picking a lot of those guys, and certainly maybe outfielders were something intentionally avoided, but one catcher seems like a curious move.
Yeah. And the catcher is the bonus pool stuff is kind of weird. Some Baseball America has the Sox signing 18 of the 20 already, and some other sites have them not signing that many yet. I don't know what is most updated, but Baseball America has that catcher, Michael Turner, signing for a 35,000 bonus, which is like far under the bonus pool allotted to there. So I think that was more just, hey, this is a guy that we can just sign for cheap and use it on Jonathan Cannon or Peyton Pallette. Peyton Pallette.
We can get Cajun. I don't know how we're supposed to do it, but we'll figure it out.
Pay it. But so I'm not even sure if he's going to be a guy that they'll even really use that often. He might even just go straight to Kannapolis, maybe just hang out for a week in ACL and then just go straight to Kannapolis and just back up there. The outfielder Jacob Burke actually did get more than for rounds 11 through 20. It's 125,000 is kind of the bar, and he got over 100,000 more than that. And he was really good in the ACC with Miami last year. It's just the difference between where he could be and where Jordan Sprinkle could be is pretty big. Okay. But he probably will end up being a left fielder, just because the arm isn't there. But he did hit really well last year in the ACC, which is at least a 2 thumbs up in my book.
Yeah, I was impressed
for over expectation. So
I really was. I don't know anything, so it's like, oh wait, this guy actually seems pretty good. Or conversely, oh wow, who is this guy? What are they going for this guy? This high, and so a very simple-minded approach. But when researching him, I was like, hey, wait, this he's a rookie of the year in the conference, or no, on the team. Which is not nothing. I mean, Miami's not a chop.
He does strike out a lot. That's right. Kind of the bad thing, but that's something that the Sox have a lot of guys that do that in low A, and it does seem like if they're does seem like that they can bring down that strikeout number in their first full pro season. Whenever they get there. I don't know what they do in Birmingham when they're there, or what they do in the spring, but they do seem to be able to kind of stabilize the strikeout rates. But that's going to be the biggest thing, and probably why he fell down a decent amount.
And it's a Romy Gonzalez thing. Maybe you just
Yes.
Lightning strikes again or something. Who knows? But yeah, that guy he sort of opened my eyes. And granted, it wasn't just because it's like, oh wait, he's the only outfielder. Although that was part of too. Worth noting, White Sox have signed as of right now. We'll get to them toward the end of this, I suppose, or briefly touch on some of the undrafted free agents. Have signed the most in the American League. Only the Phillies, I believe, and San Diego so far have signed more of the undrafted free agents, but among them only one catcher. So the White Sox are not exactly like loading up on undrafted catchers either. Let's jump toward the bottom of the draft with some weird guys, sort of maybe strange to spend too much time on, but why not? It does, just because you're a 20th round pick doesn't mean you have any less chance of getting to the majors per se than a guy who's a 10th rounder. But a guy that a lot of people scratch their heads about and were sort of excited about. And I got to say, the man comes across as just a real hoss and a real badass, in traditionally whatever stereotypical Texan way, as I well know, having spent time behind those enemy lines. Tristan Stivors, closer, more saves than anyone in the country. And what really struck me was he's a guy who, when it came to, I want to say it was maybe College World Series or playoffs, conference, something, really a must game, said, okay, I'm going to start my first game this year. He pitched 7 innings and he pitched very well against an opponent that wasn't like, wasn't, I don't know, Texas State or something. It was a legit opponent, just sort of an eye opener. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but seems like a strange, like kind of outlier. Is he the kind of guy who they just sort of like pick, hey, he's there. Let's just sort of roll him out there in the minors and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's more along the lines with that. I mean, he was fantastic last season, but he is a lower 90s fastball guy. And at that point, they've already taken a couple relievers that they actually like gave a lot more money to, like Eric Alder or Adler and Mark McLaughlin. So at that point, it's more, I know your TCU guy, Halen Green. I would compare him more to Halen Green, just because, you're at this point kind of a veteran closer, because he's 23 right now. So he's a bit old for being drafted, but they need to load up on just pitching in general. And if this is a dart throw that they can see that things they liked last year, the entire season after him having a bad 2021, then any type of improvement they think they can build off of is good in my book. They just they need to start moving the pitching through the system.
Yes.
Anyone go look at Charlotte's go look at Charlotte's pitching rotation. They need to get some arms.
Yes, guys who can go maybe more than any, unless they're really taking a bold strategy where it's just going to be bullpen games every day. They've never used openers, so they're not going to start using openers. They're just going to use bullpen games every game. Well, Stivers has moxie, and there's, I guess, something to be said for that. We'll find out. He'll be, I guess technically he's a pro already. He'll be actually participating as a pro soon. We'll see what the guy can do. Okay, next pick. Can't not acknowledge him. Two-way player, Nick Altermatt from Mankato. I mean, not exactly a hotbed of baseball up there in Minnesota, but, he's an interesting story. And, White Sox drafted him as a pitcher. He was not announced as a two-way player as other guys were. So I guess the intent going in, like I want to say Addison Coffey as well, was just announced as one or the other, even though I think they left it open that they might have him go both ways, even though he has not hit as a pro yet. Again, it's just a matter of, all right, okay, whatever. Let's see.
I mean, yeah.
Confirmation that you take the Minnesota guys, whatever.
They did actually sign him at the 125 bonus slot, so that's at least they had to compete for him in order for him to sign there. I do think it is interesting that they already pigeonholed him into the pitching spot. like he played for Minnesota State, so obviously the competition isn't, great compared to the ACC and SEC guys we were just talking about. But I'm at that point, it's just kind of they just did this with Anderson Comas, who used to be an outfielder. He used to be on the, hey, is this guy a top 30 guy like every year. And they finally just moved him to the pitching spot. I would expect him to just play where they picked him or as they picked him. I can't think of any two-way guys in their system. They usually say, if you can't do this, then you're released, or let's try this. I know they thought about it with Matt Davidson for a little bit, but I think that was more of a joke. But,
yeah.
But I mean, he was a really good hitter where he was, and he was also really good in the summer leagues that he participated in. So I'll be curious to see what happens on their end. I'm also curious to see what he actually enjoys more. Maybe he just likes pitching more, and that's what they told him.
Yeah.
And if you like something more, then maybe you'll just naturally work harder at it. Not sure, but one of the more interesting late guys that they could actually pick, just because he seems like he can actually do it all.
The White Sox have a number of third base prospects in their system. They're not rich at every position, as we well know, and it's even been documented in this very podcast. But the White Sox, of their 20 picks, decided to use 3 on third baseman. Is that just because that's a matter of, I mean, we're talking about 12th round and on. So is that just a matter of, hey, like the best player available, we really like Brooks Baldwin. We really thought he was an 8th round talent, so we really got to take him at 12, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just expect that they'll just move everywhere, just kind of see where he is. If you're thinking about third baseman, it probably would go, in my opinion, Brian Ramos, and then a big gap, Wes Kath. And Wes Kath, I did the update on yesterday. Today is Tuesday, and Wes Kath threw his 20th error.
He did.
So maybe we say that there's a bunch of third baseman
that's true
prospects, but they themselves might move around. Wes Kath might move to a corner infield spot. He might move to first base. These guys that they drafted at third base, like Drake Logan out of JUCO, maybe he moves around. They're good. They're all gonna probably play where they were drafted in the ACL, and then after that they're going to see in the spring, okay, hey, you have skills that can work somewhere else, and we'll kind of fit you around. They did that with Wilfred Veras pretty quickly. 21, he was playing third and first, and now he's playing more exclusively first. That's just kind of how that goes with these young guys.
I finally get to play good cop in this, Darren. I'm like, man, they got a ton of third basemen. And Darren says, well, no, they have sort of one third baseman and probably a guy who might end up being a third baseman, Colson Montgomery, a guy who we really do think is targeted for the majors at some point. And who knows, even Popeye. Yeah, they got, I guess, but yeah. All right. Okay. So you popped my balloon there. Okay. Before we get to maybe a couple undrafted free agents, or we just ran out of time or whatever. What is the value, Darren, of taking a college, or for that matter, I guess high school? I mean, high school and college players are much, much different, of course, but guys who have sort of like playoff leadership, championship experience. I am talking about the one, the only, the mustachioed Tim Elko, who helped lead Mississippi to very deep, to an incredible College World Series run. He had come back from injury. I mean, there's like a lot of crazy plot lines, and he's a 10th rounder, and he's a first baseman and whatever. He's got one leg. So, who knows if the guy ever does anything at all, but is there value when you see those types of guys picked, like, okay. Is there any merit to that stuff, that, I don't know, leadership, or that coming through some tense situations? Or is it just like, I just want to see what your scouting numbers are. I want to see what your, time to first base is. And that's really what it is. Where do you lean there? Is there any value, to something like what Elko would bring to the organization?
Well, the greatest value that Elko brings to the organization is that he's a 10th round pick. So he counts in the bonus pool, and you can sign him for a lot lower than the slot. So you can sign, the second and third round draft picks instead. But obviously they could have picked a bunch of other people
Mhm.
instead to do that. And first base is actually kind of a weird thing because all of the first base prospects are basically in the majors playing other positions.
There's a punchline there somewhere, Darren.
So you might think they have a lot of first base prospects all throughout the system, but they're really already there.
Mhm.
But I mean, he's basically in the Eloy Jimenez Dylan Cease trade. I forget his name, but there was a guy with big power. That was basically a lottery ticket in there and a first baseman, and that's just kind of how I view all of these guys that they're signing for a lot lower than the slot allotment
Mhm.
in order to sign other guys. And obviously Tim Elko is a guy that has huge power, decent walk numbers. But we talked about Jordan Sprinkle, or not Jordan Sprinkle, Jacob Blake,
Mhm.
Jacob Burke's
Mhm.
striking out a lot. Like Tim Elko struck out a lot in college. Like Evan Skoug amount of a lot.
Mhm.
So we'll kind of see how that goes, but he's going to have to really figure out how to not strike out that much in order to utilize that power. Because I'm sure he's going to get the ACL and then Kannapolis next year, and that K rate's going to be at like 35%,
Mhm.
something like that. And that's just not going to cut it
Mhm.
for a first baseman like that.
Mhm.
So he has a one skill that he's really good at, power, and then maybe you try to hone in everything else.
Mhm.
But it's kind of basically a lottery ticket on all
Mhm.
these guys where they have one good thing and then
Yeah.
let's see what we can do.
Yeah. White Sox, as I had mentioned, have been very active in snagging relatively quickly, undrafted players, including a lot more arms. And we know the White Sox need a lot of arms, so that's a wise move, guys. Is there anyone among the undrafted free agents that jumps out, or is it just good to get a bushel of these arms into Arizona and sort of like roll them out there and see what happens?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just good to again, this system is just old in general. Like they
Yeah.
have a lot of guys that probably just shouldn't be in the minors, so you can see if some like Chase Selesky, like see if he can
Mhm.
actually do something in Double-A instead of keeping him in the lowers.
Mhm.
Because you have to pitch some other guys like
Mhm.
Kyle Kubat forever in Charlotte, something like that.
Yeah.
But there are, I know Drew McDaniel out of Mississippi again.
Mhm.
Um, he's a high strikeout guy, also walks a ton of people. He just has a really good curveball. So that's, again, just one thing that is really good. And maybe you try to put other things together. Again, Cole Seamus was an undrafted
Mhm.
free agent. So these guys will, the draft used to be 40 rounds. So
Yeah.
these guys will at least compete in other things. But Ben Butel is probably the guy that I will look out for the most.
Mhm.
He's a lefty. The Sox need lefties. He's a
Yeah.
reliever. He was really good in the Big Ten last year. Pretty good in the summer in the draft leagues heading into the draft. And he's a sidearm guy. So, and with a good slider. So if you're a lefty sidearm, good slider, you're well on your way to
Yeah. You're
going
on
to
the
the
radar.
majors
Yeah.
and getting 2 outs a game.
Right.
So
Right.
if that's the bar of who I think could
Mhm.
actually be in the majors one day, just because of good slider, sidearm guy, lefty on the White Sox, that's a guy that I would look out for and will take note on every
Mhm.
uh, minor league update that I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are many. Sorry, Darren, there still are many for you. And to that note, surely in a week's time, if not sooner, we'll be talking about all the great playoff bound teams in the system all of a sudden. Thank God things just reset in the middle of the year. And we probably also will be addressing, and it's an ugly part, it's a sad part, but we probably will be addressing some guys who are either have a very short leash remaining in the system or may already be released, because there are definitely going to be some moves. We can make our crib notes on who some of those guys will be, but there are definitely going to be some guys leaving the organization as room has to be made for all the new players coming in. And there's a ton. There's going to be let's say roughly 30, coming in. And so they're going to have to find space, even though in theory, Arizona, even on the single team the White Sox mysteriously have, I guess you could run out a roster of 60 guys, just aren't going to get too much playing time for everybody. So we probably will be addressing that real soon if you're going to be available. If you don't just, take off and risk another South Side Sox Bucks, fine, Darren. If you're not, then we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, we will. Surprisingly, the second half is actually gone well.
Yes,
Just not in Charlotte, but everywhere else.
Now, of course, it's just a matter of days between these podcasts. That could change. We'll find out. We'll address that then. And we'll probably do a more traditional run down the affiliates, in addition to maybe some guys, maybe perhaps even getting their feet wet in Arizona by the time we talk again. But we'll do it again soon, Darren. Good to have you back. And I look forward to giving you a few more draft picks to write up next year.
Yep, I'll be around. At least it's not 40 anymore.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for sticking with us. Yes, we still do have a farm podcast, and we'll have another one coming at you maybe within a week or so, providing I can rouse Darren from his prospects slumber. Take care, everybody.